Welcome everyone to another episode in this series of Unlearning the Falsehoods. Um, the broad idea for discussion in this video is going to be caste and how was the society fragmented by the colonizer for their individual and materialistic gains. All right. So in this video, we are going to start off by a statement that was made by an individual that goes by the name of Thomas Babington Macaulay. For history students, this name is not very new, but for people who are not generally aware about what exactly went on during the colonial period in our country, Macaulay was somebody who was employed by the crown. He was sent to Bharat to make changes to the policy that would benefit the Christian colonizer in the long run. In essence, he was sent here to make a few policies that would benefit the British in the long run. All right, because see, they were. You've got to give it to the British. They indeed were cunning. They realized that the society that is living over here, okay, if we feed them a certain information, because our civilization inherently values knowledge, something that is something that is new, something that is novel, something that is very interesting to us, so we are inclined to believe it readily. And indeed, um, it is nothing new. All right, the lifestyle of the English fascinated us. Their ways, their mannerisms, their language was something that came across as very interesting to us. All right, and after that, after that onslaught of the Islamic plunderers and all that, all right, people were somehow intrigued. Okay, this English person is over here. Let us learn what he has to offer. All right. So yes, in a way, up to a certain degree, it was also a fault of ours that we bought into this idea of the Englishmen being superior, or the English race being superior to our race. All right, but that's content about some other video and some other series. Right now, we are focusing on this individual that goes by the name of Thomas Babington Macaulay. This is his words. I'm quoting him verbatim. I'm not paraphrasing it. This is readily available on the internet. You can look it up. Okay. So now I'm about to read what he said in the Westminster Parliament. All right. We must at present do our best to form a class who may be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern. So by us, he means the British, and the millions whom we govern, he means the natives of Bharat. A class of persons who are Indian in blood and color, but English in tastes, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. Okay. So Macaulay, he realized that the mass of the people of Bharat, the population is so huge that it presents a very lucrative financial opportunity. Because keep in mind, colonization has this backdrop of industrial revolutions where they developed a lot of machines. They were producing a lot of goods, and they needed markets to export those goods to. Okay, so imagine you'll have a bunch of we'll have a population, a population that goes into millions, and you can turn them into people like you. So they'll need the goods that you're producing, and hence you could start that cycle of consumerism, and people will buy your goods that you are producing using the inventions that came out of industrial revolution. So it all connects. Okay, so they wanted people who would think like them. Okay. So this fellow, Macaulay, he realized that, okay, education is one medium. And it was not just Macaulay. There were other people who had already, spoken this in the Westminster Parliament, that education, and by that extension, through a medium of education, that is their language, you can mold the worldview and the perspective of the people who live here. All right. So for that, education was chosen as a medium, and the medium of education was obviously English. Now this is widely known to history students, but for the lay person, there were multiple debates about the language of education as well. There was one section of there was one section of the colonizers who thought that vernacular language is indeed the way forward, but there were people who advocated the use of English. And guess what those people were called? Evangelicals. Okay, evangelicals means people who are here to convert. So they advocated the use of English language because they wanted people, okay, uh, people who thought like the English, behaved like the English, dressed like the English. All right, this is widely out there in textbooks. I don't know why people don't see this and understand this, but this is you know, every historical evidence says this. If you have not already found it, you can look it up on the internet. It's already there. All right. So yes. So there was this theory of downward filtration theory, meaning people who are willing to adopt the English education, we will train them. All right, we will train them, and from there onwards, the knowledge will percolate downwards. Okay, we could use them as ambassadors. Oh, look at these people. These are the natives who adopted this language, and look at the way their life has transformed. Okay, so this way they could entice people into thinking like English, into adopting the English way. Okay, and this is in 1835, not after 1857. This is in 1835, in the earlier part of the 19th century. All right. So yes, what this did was, the Brits, they realized, okay, now we are really going to get into some difficult truths. Now these things have to be talked about. We cannot move forward. We cannot take the word forward if we are reluctant to speak about certain things, because it will hurt some of the sentiments. The purpose of discussing these things is not to advocate, caste system, varna system, jati and whatnot. The purpose of this video is to talk about certain difficult truths. All right. So when this idea of developing a certain class of people who would be English trained and then others will follow suit, okay, they realized that the majority of the teachers, they came from a priestly class that we like to call over here as Brahmins. All right, they were known as the priestly class. Now keep in mind, the colonizer came over here after experiencing this, Christian Reformation, the Protestant Reformation. The core underlying idea of Protestant Reformation was revolt against the priestly class. Okay, so they are coming over here after experiencing some problems with the priestly class. So when they came over here, they operated under the assumption that the priestly class of the church is equivalent to the Brahmins. Okay, so now that they came over here, they realized, all right, initially they started training the Brahmins first, because they were the ones who were catching up early. They were the ones who were learning English very early, but they realized that this sense of nationalism in them, that was preventing them from divorcing the principles and the morals of their civilization and their culture. So what they realized was, you needed to fragment the society. Okay, you needed to isolate the priestly class. Keep in mind, this is what they learned from their own Protestant Reformation. So when they came over here, they were like, okay, we need to detach the Brahmins from the society. All right, so they came up with this idea of caste. Now keep in mind, the idea of caste has already been discussed in the previous videos. It was brought forward by the Portuguese. The word caste does not exist in any of the Sanskrit vocabulary or any of the native language vocabulary at all. It was a Portuguese import. The British carry forwarded it. Okay, so they came up with this idea of castes. All right, now why did they have to use this word? So when they came over here, they observed that the population in this country, okay, they are broadly divided, okay, they are broadly divided into 4 areas. Okay, the Varna system. Yes, I'm talking about the Varna system. The priestly class, the mercenaries, the wealth creators, and the bulk of the population that was indulged in the process of manufacturing and labor. All right, so this is how they were connected. It was, imagine of the wheel of a cycle. At the center there are Brahmins, okay, and everything flows from there. This is what they realized. So they realized if they had to, you know, create a chaos by, separating the moorings from the system of classification, was to isolate the Brahmins. Now that they have done this, okay, they had to divide the castes further. So they came up with these ideas of criminal castes, martial castes, and all the other different categories of people. They associated with them with the work that they had to offer. Okay. So yes, this was an ethnocentric world. This was an ethnocentric, an ethnographic. For those of you who don't know, ethnography is the study of study of a culture from their own perspective. All right. So they came over here and they started realizing that okay, these are the peoples, and we need to classify them into so and so categories. But they had only one word over there, that was Portuguese given caste. So they classified different people into different castes, meaning this is a martial caste, this is a criminal caste, this is a this caste, and this is that caste. To this day, we carry forward this legacy. Again, for reasons that are unknown, we don't know. All right. And one more thing is the missionary role. Okay, the ethnographers, the British authorities or the company authorities, they were informed by these things by the missionaries, because it was them who were working on the ground. All right, let's take example of the word tribes. Okay, tribe was the word that was used by the colonizer to describe the native people. Okay, when Columbus he went to America, he described them as native tribes, and that word stuck, and hence the word tribe. Okay, the underlying idea over here is that tribes are the original indigenous inhabitants. The people who are living over here, the majority of the community, they have come over here by method of conquest. Okay, and hence they should be replaced. This was the underlying idea. Okay, now let's take example of the tribes, the Santals, the Mundas, the Hos. Okay, now imagine the map of Bharat. Okay, done. Next, go to the states of Jharkhand and Bihar. Okay, it's a very recent phenomenon that the both have been separated, but earlier both of them were together. Okay, now that entire belt, okay, had a lot of tribal population. Okay, now in our textbooks we have been taught, okay, the tribes or the tribal revolt were essentially a result of you know non unreasonable revenues and zamindaris and whatnot. So these revenue was the major reason why there were tribal rebellions. That's not true. If you look at the areas of Jharkhand and Bihar, and a simple internet search would prove this, many missionary churches had come up in these areas, Bihar and Jharkhand. 4 is what I know of. There were multiple churches, even Lutheran, Protestant, and Catholic churches as well. So multiple churches had come up in these areas. All right. Tribal revolts essentially rose because the British were messing with their culture. Okay. Keep in mind, paying a larger amount of tax was never a problem. Okay. People were ready, and there are multiple examples from the colonial history of Bharat that there were people who were paying unreasonable tax. Then why didn't they rise up in revolt against the British? And it was only Santals and Mundas and Hos, those people who rose up in revolt against the revenue system. No, the original reason, or the real reason why these tribes they rose in revolt against the British was they were messing with their culture. They were making efforts to convert them, and that was something that wasn't taken lightly by the tribes. Okay, you can read, there are multiple authors. One that I can remember right now is Charles Dickens. Even Karl Marx has written praises about how the tribal revolt were so fierce. Okay, you really would have to touch a nerve, touch a sensitive nerve of an entire tribe for them to be so tenacious and so fierce in their revolt against the authority. Revenue cannot be a single reason. So, yes, this is how they bifurcated and fragmented the society, kept on doing that further and further. And to this day, we subscribe to this idea of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Okay, the reason why we call them scheduled is it's mentioned in one of the schedules of the constitution, same with the tribes as well. Okay, but this was a phenomenon that was used by the British to fragment the society. And why did they want to fragment the society? To divorce the priestly class. Okay, the source or the orifice through which the nationhood of Bharat flows. They completely divorced them from the other three varnas, and we still see the repercussions. And the last part, okay. Now, there are a certain historians and certain scholars from the liberal side who would say that, all right, all of this is fine, okay, but how do you explain the popularity of English education and everything for that matter among the Gen Z and among all the young adults and all the young ones in the population of Bharat? How do you explain this? Okay, now this is from 47 onwards when there was transfer of power. Okay, so when I say young adults in the population, I'm talking about the population from 47 onwards. So why were they very much because that was the education that was marketed. Okay, there was a change in the worldview. Okay, meaning our lenses had changed. The way we look at world events was a colonizer's lens. You are only supposed to look at or you are only supposed to look at the world events through the lens of the colonizer. Okay, so when you are doing this, when you are putting inside the heads of the students that you are indeed a subjugated race, yeah, now you need to look at the world through a colonial lens. Okay, they would find other things, their native knowledge system, everything useless. Why? Because you're looking at the worldview through a colonial lens. So that is why even the syllabus in the school was continued to be what it was. There was an entire coterie of scholars, majority, almost all of them from the liberal left side, to write all the history textbooks and to carry forward that legacy of looking at the world through a colonial lens. Okay, and up to this day, we are carrying forward with that idea. Our school textbooks have not changed much. Our syllabus has not changed much. The history of this country only started after 1947. Before that, it was just all chaos. And yeah. So, yes, our entire worldview has changed. And sadly, such is the case to this very day. Okay. We are in this deep slumber of sleep. We have not woken up, but that is the whole point of this series and whole point of this whole point of this initiative, that is esports and information, that we intend to bring to you is to wake you up from a deep slumber. Okay, wake our civilization up from a deep slumber of sleep since the 8th century, I would say. All right. So yes, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. We will meet again in the next video.